You've been riding long enough to know the difference between marketing and the truth. Some of these bikes checked every box on paper. You sat on one at the dealer, maybe even got a test ride. 3 months in, something felt wrong. Not broken, just wrong. Like serious money spent on an experience that never quite arrived. Before we get into the list, here's one thing about the last bike. BMW's largest twin ever. 1,802 cubic centimeters, completely exposed. No fairing. No screens between you and the engine. It either makes complete sense for where you are in your riding life right now, or it makes none at all. First up, the F750 GS. On paper, it made sense. Lighter than the big GS. Lower seat option. Adventure capable without wrestling a 250 kilogram machine. A smart, manageable entry into the BMW family. Here's where it falls short. Get 200 miles into a long day, and that standard seat starts registering complaints. The riding position, slightly hunched, slightly forward, sits in a no man's land. Not touring comfortable, not agile enough to be enjoyable. Serves neither purpose particularly well. The parallel twin pulls decently around town, but at motorway speed, over real distance, there's a strain to it. Like the engine is working harder than it wants to be. That effort ends up in your wrists and lower back. Riders who stepped off bigger BMWs reported the same thing. This bike asks more from you than it gives back, and it's priced close to its larger sibling. For that money, the shortfall stings. Not a bad motorcycle, just not enough motorcycle for the money. The next one costs considerably more, and what it costs you after the sale, the dealer will never put in writing. The K1600 GTL looks like the ultimate touring machine. 6 cylinders, silky smooth, more features than most cars. For the first 10,000 miles, it probably is. Then something electrical flags up, or the major service interval arrives. You walk into the dealer with a motorcycle and walk out noticeably lighter. Not lighter on the bike. In your account, 6-cylinder inline engines are brilliant pieces of engineering. They're also serious business to maintain. This is not a machine you service in the garage on a Sunday afternoon. Valve clearances, 6 throttle bodies, the electronics stacked buried under that fairing. It requires specialists, and specialists charge accordingly. Riders who put 25,000 genuine touring miles on the GTL talk about the weight differently by year 2. Approximately 350 kilograms fueled. Manageable when fresh. At the end of a long day, pulling into a tight motel car park, it becomes a different conversation entirely. The GTL does many things brilliantly, but on its terms, not yours. The next bike did something more uncomfortable than send you a repair bill. It told riders exactly what kind of rider they were. Not everyone liked that answer. The S1000XR was sold as the sport adventure crossover for the serious rider. And it looks the part. Aggressive, sharp, superbike DNA wearing touring clothes. What it actually communicates to the world. I still want people to think I'm 35. There's nothing wrong with that impulse. We've all been there. But get honest with yourself at mile 250 of a long day and that semi-aggressive riding position. The subtle forward lean the XR never fully surrenders starts extracting a toll. Wrists, neck, lower back, not all at once. Gradually, like a tax you didn't notice until the bill arrived. The XR is a fast, capable machine. No argument. But it was designed for a rider who wants to chase corners more than cover ground. Mature riders who thought they were buying a sport tourer and discovered they'd bought a race replica in disguise tend to reach that conclusion somewhere around the third long trip. The real identity mismatch isn't in the specs. It's in what the bike physically demands of you after 2 hours. Here's something I'll return to at the very end of this list. There's one BMW on here with a seat position so upright, riders have described feeling their spine decompress for the first time in years. That's still ahead. Keep watching. The R1250 RT is the sensible touring answer. Dealers say so, magazines say so, and they're not wrong. It is genuinely competent. But here's what doesn't get mentioned. The RT has been so thoroughly engineered for isolation and smooth delivery that somewhere in that process, the bike lost its voice. The 1,254 cubic centimeters boxer has character. We're used to That distinctive low-end torque surge, the feel you got in your chest. The RT's electronics package manages it before you ever fully experience it. Dynamic ESA, cornering ABS, cruise control, all of it working quietly and constantly. Smoothing, intervening, optimizing. For some riders, smooth becomes numb. 6 hours in, you realize you arrived somewhere without feeling like you rode there. The windscreen managed the wind. The seat managed the road. The electronics managed the engine. Your job was mostly to point it in the right direction. For riders who came to motorcycles because they wanted to feel something, that antiseptic competence becomes its own kind of regret. The RT doesn't fail you. It just doesn't move you. After 30 years on 2 wheels, that might be the bigger loss. The next one hurts differently. It's beautiful. It's punishing. And the sound it makes at idle, there's nothing else on this list like it. Stay with me. The nineT. Every rider who sees one turns their head. The exposed air-cooled boxer, the trellis frame, the retro lines BMW got exactly right. It has presence, the way a well-worn leather jacket has presence. Immediately, without trying. Here's the honest trade-off, and this one matters. That flat, minimal seat puts you in a position designed for looking right in photographs, not for riding 300 miles. The bars sit low enough that your wrists begin carrying weight they shouldn't. The suspension, firm for a retro bike, transmits every road imperfection in a way neither the RT nor the GS would ever allow. Then there's the air cooling. Long motorway stretches in summer heat, stop-and-go traffic, the engine gets warm. Not dangerous, just present. You feel it against your right leg, a steady radiant warmth that never lets you forget this machine has trade-offs baked in. Riders who bought the nineT as their primary long-distance machine found out the hard way. Those who bought it for weekend rides and the occasional blast, they're still smiling. The regret depends entirely on what you asked it to be. That's the honest trade-off. Now, the next bike. Picture sitting completely upright. The handlebar coming to you, a 1,800 cubic centimeters engine pulling from little more than idle with a torque wave that rises up through the seat. Not aggressive, just authoritative, and an exhaust note so deliberate it sounds like the bike is thinking. That one is next. The R1250 GS Adventure. If you've been paying attention, you saw this one coming. This is the bike that redefined what a production motorcycle could do. The GS lineage is arguably the most influential model line in modern motorcycling. And the Adventure variant, with its larger tank, longer suspension travel, and commanding riding position, became the default answer for any rider who wanted one machine to handle everything. And it does. Genuinely. 500 miles across varied terrain, loaded with luggage, through weather that would send other bikes looking for shelter. The GS Adventure handles it with a calm capability that still impresses after all these years. Here's where the regret quietly lives. Most riders who bought one, and this is the part worth sitting with, never actually used what it does best. The deep off-road capability, the serious suspension travel, the high-clearance ground presence. That's stuff. Because the reality is, a 268-kilogram machine, fully loaded, is not something most riders in their 50s and 60s want to pick up twice in the same day on a gravel road. What the GS Adventure became, for a large number of buyers, was a status symbol wearing adventure clothing. No shame in that. But paying for extraordinary capability you'll never use and carrying all that weight through every mile you do ride is where the real regret lives quietly. An exceptional machine, the finest all-rounder BMW has likely ever built. A legitimate case could be made for stopping this list right here. But there's one more, and it changes the question entirely. Remember what I mentioned in the opening. The largest horizontally opposed twin BMW has ever built for a production bike. 1,802 cubic centimeters. Fully exposed, unmanaged. No fairing, no electronic curtain between you and what the engine is actually doing. Earlier in this list, we talked about bikes that manage the experience away from you. The RT smoothed it. The GS Adventure buried it under competence. This one strips all of that back. The riding position is genuinely upright, not the subtle lean of the XR, not the managed comfort of the RT. Your back is straight, The handlebar arrives at your chest. Wide footboards, not pegs, boards, let your legs settle into a natural position that actually takes load off your lower back. Older riders have described it, without exaggeration, as the first motorcycle that didn't fight them. Now you're rolling. First gear pulls from idle with a torque delivery that doesn't spike. It surges, a long, deliberate push you feel through the seat more than the throttle. At low RPM, the engine pulses with a rhythm that's almost physical. Not vibration. You're feeling the engine work, each firing stroke separately, like a heartbeat. At 60 miles an hour, the R18 is completely at home. Not working, not buzzing, just pulling steadily, with an exhaust note so deep and unhurried it sounds like it isn't trying to impress anyone. Because it isn't. Here's the ownership truth no brochure will mention. The R18 is slow by any modern standard. A mid-range sport bike leaves it at every light. And for a certain kind of rider, that is precisely the point. This bike doesn't ask you to keep up. It doesn't care about keeping up. It was built for riders who stopped needing to prove something and started wanting to feel something instead. After all the weight, the complexity, the electronics, and the performance anxiety, the R18 wins this list not because it's BMW's best motorcycle. It wins because it's asking a completely different question. And for a lot of riders at this stage, it's finally the right one. Drop a comment before you go. At this point in your riding life, do you want a bike that handles everything competently, or one that does one thing and makes you feel every single mile?